Hello everyone and welcome to an episode of Project Ruby. And this one, well, as you can judge by the thumbnail, I've got some rusty fittings under the grommets of the wiper spindles. For a while I've noticed something occurring with that, and I'll go into that in a second. But I'm also going to show you some of the parts that have been fitted to Ruby that I've used from the donor vehicle that was broken not long ago. So I thought I would show you exactly what some of the improvements are. Very small improvements, but some of them actually quite crucial and quite important. Let's go and take a look. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Right, what do we have here? Rust. That's the most rust that I've seen on Ruby so far, and it's rust that has been hidden away from my view for a while. Okay, now when I was breaking the donor car with Richard, we were getting the wiper arms off, and you know what, these wiper arms popped off so easy. Watch these caps. Now I have had to replace one of these. I think that one was fine, but that one was broken. The one off the donor car, which is what I'm holding, was perfect. So I'll keep that nice and safe in there. They're very hard to get. They broke off quite easy with a tiny bit of, you keep the 13mm nut on the end, bit of pry bar pressure, and they popped off easily. I've put some stickers to note where the bottom of the wipers used to sit, so I don't get you can get it a spline off, because there's so many splines here. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean up anyway, so it'll make it easier getting off in the future. But I was thinking, these are very rusty underneath here on the donor car. I wonder if Ruby's is the same, because what I noticed on Ruby, these plastic grommets are going to be replaced anyway. I've had to break that one because it was actually cracking anyway because of the rust. Now what's happened is this bites into this hex. There's like a hex, and what I could see is that it was lifting up more and more. It was just going up and up and up. It's because the rust is pushing it up. That's not how it should be. And I could see rust underneath. That's why I knew there was a problem. So those are in the bin. I have got some new old stock ones. And this is the parts number. Ford 6069785. There you go, brand new. So I am going to wire brush this down, clean all this. When I pulled the grommet off, it just flew off. That's really bad. There's some aluminium corrosion in there as well. That one's terrible. So yeah, I'm going to clean that up as best as possible. But what I will say is how nice the bonnet is. There are a few parts that I've fitted to Ruby recently. Well, hopefully once I've de-rusted that, the new grommet should sit flush as they should. I will go over with the rust killer naturally. Now you won't notice any improvements in here on things that I've added. First of all, I will say, first thing I've actually done, this weather strip has come from the donor car, because Ruby's was really bad here. It was bursting out, and you could see the metal. So I've had to throw that in the bin. This one's got a slight bubble. They tend to bubble right in the corners. That's an improvement. Secondly, this door handle had a massive crack in it, and I tell you what, you got to be careful with these door handle surrounds. You got one screw there holding it on. If you tighten that screw too much, you will crack this fitting, and I have done that myself. So once that screw feels quite reasonably tight, stop. You're going to crack it. So I've replaced that. There's nothing else in here that needed replacing. Hello, lovely interior. Just love smelling this interior. Every time I open the door, it's just like stepping back into the 90s. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, the crack that I've got on you see the crack there, right there, okay? That I think is due to heat. Unfortunately, that cannot be changed, because the one that was from the donor car also had a slight crack in it. So It's quite a common thing actually, so I'll get around to that at some point in the future. But overall, there's not much to be done in this interior, and I don't think there was anything else that I added. Richard has taken advantage of the locks and door handles because his door handles have gone really lazy. You'd open them, but you see, that's a good spring, that is. I have been told by a fair few people that the door handles on this car are excellent. They spring back really nicely. So clearly it's been well looked after, this car. Very low mileage, very seldomly used by a little old lady. And the driver's one's absolutely fine. You'd think that the spring on the driver's one would be the worst. Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, in terms of what we got under here, I noticed several things when removing bits on the donor car that I was missing. Now, I have made a few things. Firstly, you might notice this, God, it's still raining paint. This, it's a 3mm closed cell foam material that I bought in meters. And I've literally put it down on the battery tray because I'm sick and tired of this battery tray scabbing paint and surface rusting. It's not rotten, but there's just loads of nasty surface rust, and it doesn't look in keeping with the engine bay. So I've covered it up for the first time in my life. Yeah. Now, this cell foam, it basically pushes moisture off. So if there's any moisture that lands on it, it will be absolutely fine. I mean, if I peel it back, yeah. I don't think it will trap moisture between the foam and the battery tray, but I'll take it off every so often just to check and do a bit of a vacuum. I could a bit of a vacuum exercise like that's going to need in a second. So that's what I've done. I've cut it to the size of the tray. I'm very pleased about that. Battery's sitting nicely, all good. Now, in terms of improvements elsewhere, we've got one massive improvement. Before I come to that, on this side, oh, by the way, I have got the correct dipstick. It is that engine had the wrong dipstick. I've also fitted, you see this, it's like a felt that goes over this edge. It's like an edge lining. I've now got two of them. I've got one here on the corner and one here where my finger is, okay? Mainly because I don't want any pipes chafing on the sharp edge. So I use the one off the donor car. Secondly, really important, we've got an earth cable that goes from here to the engine block here. Oh my God, this is amazing. It is so long, this thing, and it's in really good condition. I thought that Ruby's having that because Ruby's old one was shorter and it was fraying from all the engine rocking over the years and misbehaviour. So that is a massive improvement, and it's never going to cause a problem because it's so long. So that's a massive improvement. My theory is with that is that the early cars probably did get quite short earth cables and they improved it for later cars. So this is where 1990, 91 cars probably had a few benefits that the early ones probably didn't have. The other one, and this is very strange because I've had to use some of it off the donor car and make some of it using closed cell foam that I've bought, and that is at the front here. Now, these pieces of rubber, they're kind of like air deflectors. Now, these have come off the donor car and they're held in by these clips on this side. Now, Ruby, as far as I'm concerned, has never had any evidence of this being fitted or this. Now, I have made this myself out of a template of the old one. So on the donor car, if you remember, referring back to that video, it had this deflector, but it's a kind of a cardboard design, and the cardboard's just gone. I couldn't use it, I was gutted. But then I thought, well, I've got this fixed cell foam. Surely I should be able to make a copy and a template using the original clips as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's held in by a tag down there as a deflector. Brilliant. Now, all I can say is only the gears got this treatment, I think early gears. Now, this car is obviously a late 1990 manufacture, 91 registration. I have seen this stone deflector, this air deflector kit to go around the radiator. around from a G-Reg. Rob had a G-Reg one, November 89, with this kit. And I've seen RS turbos with this as well. However, I'll just push that in, just bend it because it's not cardboard. This car, I don't think has ever had this fitted. I don't think these drop off. I don't think they're missing. I think they were never there because Mark's gear that we've seen on this channel, F634DTG, I think I've got that right. He hasn't got this either, and he'll be telling me that. So F registration gears, I don't think ever got this, but it's on the donor car. I've got to use it. So I'm really pleased that my car now has that sort of gear look to the front of it where it's all sort of covered up, and I'm really pleased about that. That's really gone down a treat, and I love these clips. They're very nice to actually use. They're not typical clips, these are. You need to actually unscrew. It's actually a proper screw into plastic. You can't just pull it out. Like a lot of screw clip connectors. So that's a bit of a geeky thing there, but Ruby's got the full gear look at the front now. Probably whether it didn't have it at all originally. We have also got a bit of a geeky thing. There's a clip down there that I've used off the donor car, which makes sure that the speedo cable does not chafer against this junction box down here where all these cables going. Because obviously you've got the throttle cable that goes in, then you've got the accelerator cable to the carburetor and the gearbox cable as well, and they're all being fed through that junction box. But that junction box is quite sharp. And I've had to make sure that my fuel lines with those new Coline fuel lines do not chafe against it. So that's another, just a tiny thing there. I've also used a couple of screws that were missing. Yeah, we're missing some fittings to some of these screws. On this bulkhead, you've got these screws. But the clips some of the clips were missing. So I managed to use some scripts, the clips that looked really good from the donor car, that they weren't rusting silver. I used them and some better screws. I have also taken the scuttle off with that job. My heater resistor, I think I complained that my heater resistor was not working on number 1, which is true. I'm just going to wind this back. It was only working on number 2 and number 3, which is kind of useless. Yeah, I think that crack is probably going up. I'll get that replaced at some point. It's not an imminent. Right, so. Yay! We have actually got some speed. I mean, if that's speed, that's not speed. Second, third. I mean, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't put it on number 1 at all, unless it was just, I needed a bit of airflow. So that heater resistor from the donor car has replaced the broken one that was originally with the car, because if you remember, I replaced the fan motor for a second-hand one that didn't sound like a motorbike when you turned it on. That's what it sounded like in the early episodes. It was terrible. Anyway, that is as far as I go with that. The biggest one in the room that you may not have noticed is this wonderful brake servo here. I cannot believe it. This brake servo was fitted to that donor car, covered in muck and crap. And you know something? I thought, well, that's going to go in the spares, because a brake servo for Mark III's will be very desirable in the future in case they ever go wrong. I don't think they ever do, to be honest. The diaphragms are very strong in them. They don't seem to give any issues, touch wood, at all whatsoever. But to find one that isn't rusty because it's leaked brake fluid from an old servo and started to bubble is very rare. I tell you what, the way this cleaned up, I was looking at it and I took photos of it. If this was sold on eBay in the condition it was now, after being cleaned up, I think you could claim that it wouldn't come with a box, obviously, because it's so big, but you could claim that it's genuine new old stock and sell it for an absolute fortune, because I know that the RS Turbo boys would absolutely buy one of them in a heartbeat in this condition, and pay quite a hefty sum, 200, maybe 250 pounds for one of these in the right condition. This one has got the minutest amount of bubbling just here. That is it. It's literally mint. And I thought, I can't, you know what, Ruby's is terrible. I've been painting it and I've been trying, I can't do it. Yeah, I've got to change the servo. This looks so much better in the engine bay, and Ruby's one, I've tried to paint it, but to be fair, I needed to take it off the car. So Ruby's is now, the Rusty Ruby's old one is now in the spares between me, so that would be either mine or Rob's, whichever one. It's our spares. And I tell you what, getting it out was easy, because all you're doing is taking that split pin out the back, pushing that little bush out. You've got to bring it forwards a little bit. 4 nuts on the back side. Take the master cylinder off and bring the master cylinder forwards without bending the pipes like I did with that donor car. Yeah, honestly, and I cleaned up the back. It was such an easy job to do. Cleaned up the crossbar and the bracket, and goodness me, it looks absolutely amazing. So in terms of value, you know, with, you know, a second-hand servo that looks like that, 80 to 100 pounds, because there's a market for them. There's a market for any stuff that's nice and shiny. I've also used a horn. Apart from that functionality, I had an intermittent horn for a while, and I couldn't work out why. That old horn is actually in the bin because it was cracked. This one that I've painted, it's off the donor car. Again, a straightforward fix. So sorry Richard, I've stolen the horn. He won't mind, because he's very happy that I've used some of these parts already to make Ruby better. And I said at the start I wanted to make this the best possible Mark III going, and I said that in the first episode, and I think I have, but there's always improvements to be done. But anyway, I will leave you here. I've got a lot of wire brushing to do. I've got to be very gentle, I don't scratch the paint, so I'm going to have to go very carefully around these spindles and treat them. I probably need to get the vacuum out, and yeah, I thought I would update you on that one. But see, the donor car has made a lot of difference to what I can add to Ruby, and there's still other things that I thought maybe I could use that. So I've still got things to mess about with, but it's literally tinkering around the edges. The majority of it I'll hope to never use, but things like the horn, you know, that would have cost me about probably 15 quid to have it delivered, maybe 20. You know, things like that really add up. And if I count the cost of value of all the parts that I've added to this car, probably about £200 worth of stuff, adding in total. So when you consider that, the investment that me and Richard made, which was a few hundred quid each way, with a bit of recovery costs, it's an absolute bargain. And I'm sitting on an engine and gearbox. Both the engine and gearbox have been cleaned up on now in storage in the garage, and they are looking absolutely amazing. The engine has been inspected, and the only thing that engine requires is a head skim for sure, definitely. There were signs that the head wasn't quite level. It needs a skim. It may need its valve stem seals replacing, just as a matter of course, because I think they're the originals, so that might have to be done. But the camshaft tappets, they can be retained, and the valves can probably be cleaned up as they are. Pistons just need a bit of a decoke on the top. I think it will need the sump removing. I didn't do that, I just cleaned on the outside. It may need the sump removing just to make sure there's no sludge on the baffle. There was a bit of coke on the inside of the engine, but it's only surface coke. There was no actual sludge. It was all cokey black, which is typical for CVH, which is why When I took Ruby's cam cover off in the early episodes, I thought that was pretty dirty, and yet everybody said that's extremely clean for a CVH. They have serious breathing issues, and I know what people mean that by now, because every other CVH that I've seen, they are as black as hell on the inside. So Ruby must be one of the cleanest ones. It has been rebuilt for a reason. Anyway, I will leave you be. Lots of improvements to be had, and benefits from breaking one car to keep two going and make them better. Take care, guys.